Is it possible to vibe code a HubSpot CMS website? And when I say vibe code, I'm talking about building an entire HubSpot website using AI. We are pushing the limits here at Impact. We're figuring out what you can do and what you can't do, and we're going through all this. In this episode, I'm going to be joined by one of our lead developers who's assisting me in this project. And stick around to the end of the episode because you're going to learn a ton about what you can do right now, where there's still limitations, but how far out we actually are until we can fully vibe code a HubSpot website.
You're listening to the Endless Customers podcast, brought to you by the team at Impact. Endless Customers is the proven system to become the most known and trusted brand in your market. If you want to learn the principles of Endless Customers and how you can implement them in your business, pick up a copy of Endless Customers, a national bestseller, wherever books are sold. Ready to start implementing Endless Customers in your business? Talk to Impact about how our coaching program can help you implement Endless Customers to success. And if you want to experience Endless Customers in person, don't miss our upcoming event, Endless Customers Live, in Hartford, Connecticut, October 5th through the 7th, 2026. Registration is now open. And now, on to the show. Here's your host, Bob Ruffolo.
All right, welcome everyone to the Endless Customers podcast, and we have a great episode today. We're going to talk about vibe coding. If you don't know what vibe coding means, it's using AI to build software or websites, and particularly we're going to talk about websites today. So is it possible for, say, in the Endless Customers community and the types of websites that we build here in the Endless Customers community, websites with learning centers and lots of content being regularly updated and having multiple contributors, and having pricing pages and self-service tools. Can we vibe code all that? And can we do that in a HubSpot environment? And so where is all this right now? We're going to try to make sense out of that. So today we have our Danny from our team here, Danny Escardo. He's been with us. Man, Danny, you've been here, what, 7 years at Impact?
8 years in July. Yeah.
So Danny has been with us for 8 years. Many people of the Endless Customers community might not know who Danny is. They may have seen you at one of our events, but you're like a hero behind the scenes here, Danny, because you're the one that's actually building websites for our clients. Well, we'll have our strategist. Maybe it's Mary, who's very much more public facing. She's been on the podcast before. She speaks at the events. But like you and Melissa and Joe Rinaldi, the three of you guys, you're actually the ones building the websites here at Impact. So,
Right.
so we've never had you on the show. This is your first time. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
And Danny's down in Miami, so you're going to get that Spanish accent here, which is a little flavor on the show. But Danny is a great guy. I'm a very, very dear friend of mine as well. And it's been awesome working with you for all these years. So, but we're going to get into this, Danny. So, vibe coding, I just kind of tipped off what it is a little bit. And we hear all these headlines, people are vibe coding softwares, vibe coding websites. And you know, I guess we'll just start with the biggest question right now is in the Endless Customers environment, how should we be thinking about vibe coding when it comes to our websites right now? What can we be doing?
Yeah. So there's a shift in the way that we develop software, obviously. And vibe coding is becoming integral to that. It used to be a novelty. It used to be something that people would do to just create scaffold of projects, MVPs, and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's much more widely accepted now. Even professional developers are using it. It's a very efficient way to do it. In terms of the Endless Customers community itself, we're seeing a lot of clients that are starting to vibe code their own tools, and they're starting to create their own software and trying to leverage it for the Endless Customers journey.
Yeah. So many of the people that we've worked with, I mean, every website for the most part we've built for a client, probably for the last 10, 12, 15 years has been a HubSpot website. As long as HubSpot CMS has been out. We've done some WordPress websites. We've never here at Impact and did like Shopify or many of the other things that are out there, but we've stayed, mostly HubSpot, some WordPress. Is it possible to stop doing design development like we used to and start just connecting with Claude Code and start building a HubSpot website right now? Or what are the challenges that we're seeing right now doing that?
I think the vibe coding in and of itself is So if you watch videos online, or if you see somebody saying like vibe code me a website, or I ask Claude to vibe code me a website, the vast majority of those products that are going to be output are essentially scaffolds of full websites,
And when you
right?
say scaffolds, what does that basically mean? Just like
Yeah, so
HTML
like
files, CSS files sitting on a
ex
disk?
exactly right. So HTML, CSS, maybe some JavaScript for the functionality, but in reality, there's really no integration with any particular system, right? So HubSpot, and again, I saw an example last week where somebody was trying to leverage the latest model against something like Shopify, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was creating an e-commerce website that clones Shopify. And that
Mm,
is such a misleading thing to say, because there's so many things happening under the hood
yeah,
in Shopify that have nothing to do with the front end, right? Has nothing to do with the way that it looks, has nothing to do with the way that it feels.
yeah,
It's taking a whole bunch of things out of it and just sort of layering it into what is the front end of the
yeah,
website.
yeah,
Same thing with HubSpot.
yeah.
So HubSpot in and of itself has a ton of stuff in the back end that's baked in.
Oh yeah, it's a
So
very robust platform.
very robust. It's all integrated with the CRM. There's a ton of analytics and information about user behavior and conversions and all kinds of stuff.
World-class
And
security.
absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely. And the CMS is one portion of that. And the
yeah,
CMS being the content management system. So for developing websites, tools, or anything that live in the CMS, there's a certain way to do that. There's underlying code that exists that has really nothing to do with the HTML, the CSS, or the JavaScript, right?
yeah,
And that is the power of HubSpot, is the ability to make changes inside the content management system, being able to hand that off to a marketing team and let them work in the website after it's been created. And a lot of the stuff that comes out of the vibe coded tools doesn't take that into account.
hmm,
And there's a way to make that part of the process. You just have to really sort of think about the project in a little bit of a different way,
yeah,
rather than saying something like create me a landing page or create me a tool. You have to be very specific and precise about how that tool needs to be built.
yeah,
You have to tell the AI where it's going to live from the get-go. You have to communicate the goal of the tool. You need to have it interview you and ask you questions about what sort of caveats there are to the flow of the tool, and or the website.
yeah.
And there's just a tremendous amount of preparation that goes into this that a lot of people don't put in.
So Danny, you said something really important there just a second ago. Um, you watch videos online, YouTube, or you go
Yeah.
on LinkedIn and you see posts and headlines. And I think as audience members, we know AI can do a lot of stuff, but we also, people put out content that's like shocking to get attention, to get views. And just because they are showing one thing, they're saying that they accomplished it, doesn't mean it's a fully functioning version of it. And that there might be a lot of things they're not showing in the video that's trade-offs that we're not considering, because that's just the world we live in, right? We're all about capturing attention. So we gotta be realistic with what AI actually can do right now, because yeah, it might be able to build a whole website. Is it great? We see all these headlines too about, like, we've been talking about this at Impact. People are all building these softwares and they're saying, we're going to build this software and we're going to build a multi-million-dollar business. It's like, well, if you can vibe code, so can somebody else. And it's like, is it really going to be a multi-million-dollar business? And you're going to see a lot of false stuff out there. People just trying to get attention for themselves and showing that they are the leader in this. Doesn't mean that they don't know what they're talking about, but there's still gaps there. So that's what I think we're trying to dissect here a little bit when we're talking about vibe coding a website, is especially in our environment where, HubSpot websites we do a lot of. So, so what is more possible right now? So obviously we don't want to lose the power of HubSpot. We don't want to lose the security of HubSpot. There's a CMS function, which means when we can have a marketer go in and write an article and that shows up in our blog or in our learning center. We want to be able to update pages, but then there's the other side of it too, that like, all right, if we have just a file-based website, we could probably do a lot of that too, right? Where we just say, we just have a whole bunch of files that live hosted online, and we can say, well, we want to just update this page and change the copy. It just updates the page. We're interacting with Claude or Claude Cowork, opposed to log into HubSpot and updating a page. So I guess like that's like really unpack that a little bit. And by the way, Danny and I were doing a lot of this on the fly. This is not a well prepped out conversation. He knows where I'm trying to bring things. I know what he's seeing it, or he knows what he's seeing on his side. So you're seeing a lot of this like in real time as we're getting all this figured out.
100%. Yeah. I guess, yeah, you're right. So essentially working in HubSpot, in the UI of HubSpot, and eventually I think there will be a world where a shared agent could update a straight HTML, JavaScript, CSS website. Right now, though, the challenge is getting set up on something like that. I think the vast majority of the people who are attempting this, they pretty much have it on their machine,
Yeah.
right? And so whomever creates the thing is now responsible for the thing
Yeah.
going forward, right? And so I think for a CEO or a business owner like yourself, that becomes a blocker for the rest of the teams that are trying to update the website
Yeah.
and or create new content and so on. So the happy medium or the nirvana moment would be getting all of this built into something like HubSpot, where you have the best of both worlds. You can
Yeah.
create new features using vibe coding, but also still hand it off to a team in a way that they're used to
Yeah.
updating.
And I think the
And
solution for that would probably be something like having a server, or I know a lot of people are using like Mac Minis, and
mhm,
having all the files live there, have that
yeah,
connected to a Claude Teams account, and then they can then access those files through Claude Code or Claude Cowork, and all the people have access to shared projects that live in Claude. So you can do that, although, you're also giving a lot of people the same power, because I don't know how permissions would work with that, right? Because then,
right,
all say Ashley on our marketing team, that she's going to blow anything up, but she can maybe use the wrong prompt and AI can go a little weird. And then all of a sudden she's breaking the website and she didn't even know how she did it, because she's
right,
got Teams permission to access the files. And so that's a challenge. You're right. So like a one person company, this would be a little easier for, but when you have a marketing team,
right.
and by the way, to any of our viewers who are watching this, I know there's a lot of smart people. If you have more of this figured out than we do, please let us know, and leave a comment or share, because I think we're all still figuring this out in the HubSpot community. We're all still figuring this out. So, but
Yeah.
that's, I think there's some solutions there, but still not really fully baked out yet.
It's a great point. I think it's a very valid point in terms of creating. Um, the challenge again comes from that all of that, even the Mac Mini needs some sort of infrastructure behind it. There needs to be some sort of version control on it. There needs to be some sort of deployment structure on it
Yeah.
so that you can make a change and have it deployed to the web. Because you probably wouldn't be hosting the website on the Mac Mini or an internal device or anything like
No.
that.
Yeah, it would probably ship up to
So
GitHub, and then from GitHub
right,
go to something like Cloudflare, and then your version control
exact
will live in GitHub.
100%. And the people who are doing these kinds of things, they are technically inclined, I would say, right? There's a
Mhm.
lot of people, smart people who can do these things and be guided by all kinds of tutorials online. They can be guided by AI itself. So it's not that it's not doable, 100%,
Yeah.
right? I am saying in terms of and we have a ton of clients who are like that. Um, but there is a challenge for some of the less technically inclined people. It's hard to set up all the systems that need to be in place for that to happen.
Let's go to a WordPress site next,
Hmm.
and then we'll go back to HubSpot.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like it might be easier to vibe code a WordPress website, and I could be wrong on this, but I feel like you have more access to the files of a WordPress site, so you can have a clone that lives on your desktop or Mac Mini, and then the Claude can access those files. You can edit any of the files. So you're building out the site architecture, the styles, maybe some custom tools, and you're able to ship all of that to your
Yeah.
main website. Do all your schema, And then you can still use the CMS, which is connected to your WordPress database, and that's where all the content lives. And someone can log in and do the content management while you have a vibe coded website in the background. And then you just ship all those to GitHub, which then ships up to wherever you're hosting your WordPress files. So that's the right. Am I right in saying that as a setup for a vibe coding, say a WordPress website?
Yeah. Yes, it is. That is the correct flow. The thing with the only thing I would say about that is in terms of creating files, there's a structure that should be followed for software development where
Mhm.
you keep everything dry. And dry just stands for do not repeat yourself. Try to separate as many concerns as you can into separate pieces of code
Yeah.
that doesn't repeat, right? So again, if you approach the task, even the vibe coded task,
Yeah.
with that in mind, and you guide the AI to create small chunks of code, small pieces of or files that can be consumed by other files, um, that I think is the best approach to what you're saying. And yes, it can absolutely be done. It's probably easier for WordPress 100% because WordPress and HubSpot as well. The only thing
Okay.
is the control structure for HubSpot is a little bit more involved, but um
Walk,
but it can be
walk,
done
walk us
on
through that. What does that mean? Like,
on either one.
am I able to back up my HubSpot website with files that live on my
You
desktop?
you can back up the theme. So you establish, let's say you create a theme,
Yeah.
right? And that theme would have modular pieces. HubSpot is more opinionated about that. And what I mean is every HubSpot theme is a series of templates, and then there's a series of modules. A lot of people use modules in different ways. Ours is full sections, correct? So if you had, let's say, 20 different modules in our theme, there would be 20 different possible sections with different layouts for each one, right? And so the task of creating the theme would be creating the possibility of a layout. So creating the inputs and how those inputs are consumed by the Hubble code. That's what powers a HubSpot theme. And what that looks like when you select one option versus another, right? So whether it's left aligned, centered, uh, whether the image should be on the right or the left, and so on.
All the functionality
And
of the modules.
the functionality of the modules,
Okay.
correct. And so that is the way that I would approach any HubSpot theme, marketplace theme would approach creating a theme. The content itself, you can't download. So once those pages are created, I believe they have an HTML backup option in HubSpot where you could download it, but that would literally just be a dump of all the rendered data, not
Yeah.
the inferred data that actually lives inside of HubSpot. And it's the same with WordPress. So WordPress, you could create one template for every single page. You could hard code everything in each of one of those templates,
Yeah.
select in the drop down, select the template, and that would just get applied, right? No content would happen in the content management system. All of it would just be, but at that point, there's almost no point in even using
Yeah.
WordPress, right? So
So
that's the
Dan,
challenge. The challenge is really the shift of thinking when you're trying to build for either one of these content management systems is to really sort of think modularly, think in blocks,
yeah.
think in reusable pieces where someone on your team can come back and change the original headline of a section, the original description of a section, the original image, or even swap an image to a video and so on.
So Danny, you saw the work I did. I went nuts trying to build out endlesscustomers.com and
Yeah,
I vibe coded. It was very strategic, worked through all that.
yeah,
So here's the process I went through when building that site, which I think was probably the right order of operations. However, I don't know if I could use the files I built, but it's a lot of it's I could repurpose a lot of this, right? So the first thing I wanted to do was I wanted to get my design system right. I had a very clear vision for how I wanted the site to look.
Yeah.
So I picked out the fonts and I built out the style sheet, and I had one HTML page that I created. And I did all this. Actually, I did most of this with Claude Cowork. I didn't even use Cursor or Claude Code. I don't know why. I just tend to, every time I start using one of those, I just navigate back to Cowork.
Yeah.
So I got my design system right. Then I started working. I had the strategy done. I knew how I wanted the site organized, what I wanted the main navigation, what I wanted to live under those. I had my taxonomy already built out for the content in the learning center. What I mean by that is categories of topics. So I had all that mapped out and how everything connected and how it would connect back to the user profiles that, of the people of our company. So all the content showed there. I had that all structurally more in my mind than anything. And then I built out the navigation. So that was the next thing I built with Claude. The main navigation in the footer, I said build as components. I had that all saved as components files in my on my drive. And then that's basically where I got to. And I agree that the rest of the pages should be modules. How could I now say get this into a HubSpot environment? Because I bet you a lot, what I just talked about, I bet you a lot of our audience could probably figure out on their own, or they know somebody could do that work. But I think where I'm getting hung up is how do we now move this into a HubSpot environment? So I actually have a menu system that looks very detailed, icons, all kind of stuff. It was beautiful, but how do I actually set that up in HubSpot?
The trick is to start off with HubSpot.
Yeah.
The trick is not to vibe code the thing without telling the AI that this will eventually live in HubSpot, or without forcing the AI to create components that have inputs. There are many tools out there that or skills or MCP servers that can facilitate this. There's a HubSpot developer MCP server that you can connect to Claude, Cursor, or any of the most popular vibe coding softwares. And what it does is it essentially unlocks the AI's ability to find out directly with HubSpot what it can and can't do, right? So it is a facilitated way to search the documentation, search filters, to search functions that are available, global variables, all the things that you would use if you were creating a HubSpot module or even a HubSpot template.
Yeah.
And it guides it in such a way where the output is already sort of pre-configured to be used in HubSpot, right? And so
Okay.
that's essentially what I did when we grabbed your website and started to try to convert it, right? I took the website and I initially asked it to inventory all of the different sections on the page,
Yeah.
on all the pages, right? And I asked it to try and figure out which ones could be reusable, right? So it gave me a whole list of reusable modules. And then I essentially asked it to go through and to inventory all the controls that were going to be needed to accomplish this so that a marketer could update it,
Yeah.
right? Um, the style part of it is actually the easiest part because
Style
thankfully
sheet.
you
Yeah.
kind of already had that in a modular way that each one was living in each page. So, and all the classes were sort of independent from each other. So it was able to grab those and associate them with specific sections.
Which is that's why I started with the style sheet and design system, and so I could build everything off of that style sheet. Yeah.
Yeah, which was great. That part was great. I think where it struggled was, and again, what we were trying to do was provide an experience for our content builders at Impact
Yeah.
that was very similar to what they were used to.
Yeah.
And so what it didn't do was it didn't know that what we really wanted was a media option, not just an image option, right? Because we offer 5 different kinds of media
Yeah.
inside of each module.
Images, videos, etc.
Exactly. It didn't group them in the way that we would group them. It didn't establish visibility conditions for each control. So when you select this option, this control really doesn't apply. So remove that so that there's no confusion.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the things where it struggled. But I think over time, if you were able to sort of explain or give it an example, it could understand what it needed to do.
Okay.
So I would say for anybody who's trying to develop for HubSpot specifically, start off with HubSpot. Tell the AI, this is going to live in HubSpot. This is the way I want each one of these pages to be structured. I want each section or each feature to be its own module. And I want to reuse as many of those as I possibly can.
Yeah.
Right. And then when you create a template, I want you to plug the module in in the template instead of outputting the hard coded HTML and everything else.
Yeah.
And what that does is it still gives you the sort of experience of I'm applying the homepage template, so everything's already in there. But it's still, it doesn't, there's nothing hard coded, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing we strive for here is we don't want to hard code anything. Once you leave Impact, unless you want a drastic change or
Yeah.
a brand new feature, you don't need to come back for a developer.
And
Right.
that's what's so great about our theme. And
Right.
I love our theme. That's why people buy our theme. It's called the Trust theme, and it's available in the HubSpot marketplace. It's not the cheapest theme it's available, but
No.
it's one of the oldest themes that's been there and the most managed themes. And it's been launched on hundreds of websites now. And it's, everything responds perfectly. It's been cross-browser tested. It's fast. It's really real well built. So now as I'm hearing you, I think I probably should have started with that. Say we're going to use the Trust theme, download all the files of the Trust theme on my desktop, and then I could have worked off of those. And that's where all the modules.
Right.
And then what about the menu system? The same thing.
So your menu system could have been created from scratch. So it was great that you had it. I could tell from the rendered HTML that it was at one point a component. I think your setup had a script that it would run so that anytime you'd make a change in one file, it would output it to all the HTML files.
That's right.
We don't need that in HubSpot.
Yeah.
So you can literally just call a file into another file. So
Would that have to be like a custom module that's built in HubSpot? Because this is where I get pretty dumb.
It's a custom module.
I'm pretty good with HTML. I'm pretty good with CSS. When it's got the JavaScript, I was always not good at that because obviously Impact started as a web design company, and I was building the websites back then. But I just built HTML and CSS websites, and eventually got to WordPress, and I was like, all right, this is over my head. I started using Upwork developers, and that's how the company got started, right? So that's where my expertise kind of stops. So I know enough to be dangerous. But yeah, and I never built a HubSpot website. I've always had Christine on our team, and we always built the site because I would tell her what I want, and we would build it together, right? So,
No, you hit the nail on the head. It would have been a custom module
for the menu,
right? And you would have just described the way you wanted the menu to work. So you can either have a repeater inside of a module that lets you manually control everything.
Yeah, so I want to
including
add another
icons.
item and then pick a different icon for it.
Exactly. So each one of those items you would sort of classify it as a parent menu item or a sub nav item or a mega menu item. And then you would have inputs in there for the icon and for the main text of the menu item. I think yours had a small description underneath also. So each item that you added would be added, and then there would be repeaters inside of repeaters inside of repeaters to establish the hierarchy of the menu. That's one way. Another way is to just use a HubSpot advanced menu. The only difference is it doesn't have the capability for adding descriptions and stuff like that. You would have to like drop HTML into the label for that to happen.
Okay. So again, I think it's going to be useful for a lot of people. So then what I'm going to do next then is I'm going to download the theme. It's going to be on my desktop, and and by the way, I did tell the Claude that this is going to be a HubSpot website. So it probably made some decisions based on that. Yeah. But because I'm using Claude Cowork and I'm not using Cursor, I think you were saying use Cursor and then what was that part I missed about the having access to documentation of HubSpot?
Yeah, so so you can use it with Claude Code.
Okay.
An MCP server think of it like an API, but it has like a direct path.
And we have that set up
to the API. Yeah. So the MCP server just provides information that the AI can consume in a very efficient way.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and it works incredibly. The
Yeah.
minute I connected the MCP, I stopped having to say, go check the documentation. That doesn't work in HubSpot, right? All the things that we struggle with when we're trying to create something, that all went away.
Yeah.
And obviously, with every model that comes out, there's gonna be more and more sophistication in the models.
Yeah.
So I think all of that will get just better and better.
Have we seen anything come out from HubSpot in terms of um, vibe
So
coding on the CMS website or CMS side?
HubSpot has a nothing specific to the CMS. They have a so they released something called projects, and it is something that you could create an entire theme on if you wanted to. But it's mostly for React themes. So people who use React is just it's Meta's version of JavaScript.
Mm-hmm.
And it it's a very efficient way to create websites. It's just not the way we create websites.
Yeah.
And originally, when I investigated it, there were features from HubSpot that were not available that we absolutely use.
But like what?
S- So, like HubSpot video wasn't available at the time, as a because the whole thing, so the control structure, everything is React.
Yeah.
So they at the time that I investigated, it's probably not the case anymore. That you couldn't do HubSpot video. The CTA, the HubSpot CTA controls were very buggy. There was no real way to establish any sort of hierarchy between them. You couldn't say, don't show this option if this other thing is selected. They probably worked that all out by now.
Yeah.
But our bread and butter is the way that the theme is created right now. It's something that everybody on the team understands, and
Yeah.
it's it's just the way we create it right now. There's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. The React, it would be, I'd say React is more powerful for like a self-service tool or something like that. That's where it would absolutely shine.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, we've done hundreds of websites using the theme that we built, and
Yeah.
every client we've had, if you go look at the reviews in the HubSpot directory, and people rave
Right.
about the theme. Um, but but the challenge becomes vibe coding. That's where everyone wants to know is how do we start vibe coding HubSpot websites? That's where we're at today. And I know some people are probably have figured out more than we have. I'm the first to admit that.
Yeah.
But I think it's something that we also have a very high bar of we want things done a certain way because we want to make sure everyone on the team is using the website the way it's supposed to be intended. So I think my observation, again, I could be wrong. And if I am wrong, please call me out on this. But I think my observation is that we see very small companies with one person who builds the website has been able to figure out vibe coding a HubSpot website. But
Mhm.
bigger marketing teams and companies are maybe larger and using a lot of HubSpot. They haven't done that yet. Unless, again, I could be wrong, but I haven't seen that quite yet.
No, I agree. I
Yeah.
agree. I think the necessity is the mother of invention. I think the smaller teams are the ones that are really going to take advantage of this. The larger teams are just gonna, there's just more people involved,
Yeah.
right? And that
Yeah.
makes it much more difficult for management of the thing that we create using the AI bots.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Danny, what didn't I ask you today? I probably should have asked you. This is a very technical, geeky conversation, but I think
Yeah.
a lot of people are going to enjoy this.
I think if I had to say one thing, it would be that's very important is really that specifically for our customers, the ones that really don't understand how to create these things or what the power of these things are. I think the most important thing when communicating with any AI, it doesn't matter what platform you use, whether it's a harness or if it's a desktop or co-work or whatever, is really you need to go into the project with your goal in mind. It's
Mhm.
the most important thing
Yeah.
that you can communicate to the AI. The AI does not know. So a lot of people look at the AI as some super intelligence. It is a prediction model.
Yeah.
It just happens to have a ton of data
Yeah.
that it can query, right? So it doesn't really know what you want. It might take a really good guess at this point, which is what it's doing. But if you're not over communicating at the beginning and explaining exactly how you want things, exactly what the goal of the project is, exactly how your business logic works and your sales logic, it is going to take a tremendous amount of time effort, and tokens to create the thing that you want. And
Yeah.
that's the one thing. The costs are growing.
Yeah.
The latest model is probably twice as expensive. They're saying that the token outputs are less than the previous model, which is true, but it's still costing more to create.
Yeah.
In the grand scheme of things, that might not be a lot. For someone who's vibe coding something, is probably costs less than hiring a developer, but still something to keep an eye on.
Great point. Great point. And if you ask Claude, say, hey, I want to vibe code a website, what's my
Yeah.
order of operations? It's always going to tell you start with the goals, and it'll create a markdown
Right.
file, and then you get your
Yeah.
voice and brand all down. It'll be a separate file. And yeah, that makes complete sense. Great
I,
point.
I haven't really used it for for my day job. Does it have a plan mode? Is there a way you can create a plan mode for Claude?
Not Claude Code does,
Claude. Okay.
not Cowork. Yeah.
Okay.
I think,
Definitely use the plan mode.
yeah, yeah,
It makes all the difference.
yeah, for sure. We talked
Yeah.
about the MCP, but Danny, I think you told me there's going to be a CLI coming.
Yeah, there's a new product coming out. It's in beta. And as HubSpot states it, it allows for anything that a human can do in HubSpot, an agent will be able to do. And so that unlocks a world of possibilities in terms of the way that the agents will be able to work with HubSpot.
HubSpot websites in particular too.
HubSpot
Yeah.
websites, HubSpot CRM,
Yeah.
HubDB. Another thing is orchestration.
Yeah.
So the power of orchestration is something that blew my mind when I first did it. I was struggling to get my agent to do something. It was taking too long. And so I asked it to come up with a plan that we would store in just a markdown file. It wasn't anything fancy, no database or anything, but essentially I asked it, here are I asked it to make a list of all the things that we needed to get done.
Mm-hmm.
And then I asked it to devise a way for that markdown file to be the source of truth for this task that we were getting done. And then I asked it to assign sub-agents to take line items from that list one by one, lock them so that another sub-agent can grab it. Then when that sub-agent communicated that the task was done, I asked the orchestrating agent to review the work the sub-agent did by checking the browser, by checking for any errors in the upload through the CLI, and it was incredible. So
Okay.
it cut the development time down.
We're going to dig into this a little bit more because I want to understand this more. So first off, when you say orchestrating, layman's terms, what do you mean by that?
So it's the ability to have one agent control other agents.
So like a boss and a staff,
Exactly.
AI staff. Okay.
Yeah, I appointed my agent that I was working with as the boss. You need to get these done. I don't care how you do it. Assign it to 10 different agents if you need to, but I need this done faster.
And you did this in Claude Code or what?
I did this in I use Cursor.
You
I
did
did
this
it
in Cursor.
but you can absolutely do this in Claude as well.
Yeah.
If Claude has the potential for creating sub agents, I've seen it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So break down a little bit more in detail specifically what that was doing. So what did you put in the markdown file and what kind of work were you dividing up?
Yeah. So we were in the process of taking your coded website and trying to make it into like a HubSpot theme. So sections became modules, pages became templates, and have it sort of plug in the content that you'd already generated, because I know you spent a ton of time on that, into the module controls
A little bit of time in the content, not too much.
well, it looked great. I looked fully baked, at least the ones I looked at. And so make that the defaults for all the inputs that it was creating, so that when I applied the template, at least on the first run, it would look exactly like your hard-coded website.
Got it.
Right. And it tried to do it in a whole bunch of different ways. It created a Python script and was trying to apply a whole bunch of things in one shot, and it was just not working it like it does.
Yeah.
And then it was revising, and then it was not working, and it was revising and not working, and we went through that for hours, right? Eventually I decided to stop and just go back and think, okay, what would this look like if it was easy, right? And this is the plan again. So basically, let's create a plan. I went into plan mode. and I asked it to to essentially articulate to itself everything that needs to happen based on the conversation that we just had, right?
Yeah. Wow.
Including a checklist of all the things. And
Yeah.
all the things were go to each one of the pages, look at each individual section, right? And make sure that there's an input in a module and that that module has the default content already baked in. And the only way I was able to get it to work is literally one by one. So
Yeah.
one section by one section. And that was what was taking forever. So in order to get it to actually function, I needed multiple levels of scrutiny, right? Not just me. I needed that agent to send it to another agent. That other agent was going to work autonomously. Then it was going to send data back. Then that agent was going to check it. And then at the end, I had the final approval.
Yeah. So that,
And that worked fantastic. It cut the time, like I said, in half. And it really just blew my mind. I had never needed to do that before.
Danny, this is great. Well, why don't we plan to have you back on maybe in a couple of months when we have endlesscustomers.com all refreshed and uploaded.
I'd love to.
I'm very, very excited for this, but I'm going to need your help getting this site done.
100%.
Oh, awesome, brother. All right. Well, thank you so much, Danny. And this has been another episode of the Endless Customers Podcast. We're figuring out vibe coding. This is all new. And especially in HubSpot environments, it's still challenging. We got Hubble, we got modules, and things are different. But I think Danny's right. We got to talk about what are our goals? What are we trying to accomplish? How's our team going to use it? Security, make sure that our team's not going to break anything. These are all the considerations that we're figuring out. So here at Impact, we're focused on this. We're working on this. We're going to power through it. We'll be on the cutting edge. If you have any feedback for us, please share it our way. But with that, this has been another episode of the Endless Customers Podcast. Until next time, we'll see you soon.
If you liked this episode, please take a minute to leave us a review. Thanks for checking out the Endless Customers Podcast.